It is undeniable the role visual density plays within shot composition in film and how it affects the perception of the viewer. Density can be defined as the sheer amount of images that fill a frame and the amount of visual information that needs to be processed. Visual density can firstly be seen as a tool used to destabilize the audience and catch them off guard, simply from the amount of detail presented unexpectedly that the audience is forced to process. Density can also act as a tool to establish scale and immerse the viewer, as seen through the opening shots of Blade Runner. In a mesmerizing display, we understand the gigantic scale of Los Angeles that far exceeds what we see in the frame. By manipulating the viewer's understanding of scale, visual density can also crucially represent moments of pure futility, in the visual contrast between characters and how they are framed, within the dense expanse of the outside world, reflecting how small they feel and their own sense of hopelessness. Over the past decade or so, with the growing ecological problem of improper waste management and pollution, trash and waste have become cinematic shorthands to convey ideas of human neglect and global decay, with visual density acting as a primary tool to convey the magnitude of our own waste. Trash, at the same time, being a convenient visual metaphor to portray human futility in the conflict between ourselves and the growing global epidemic of our own design. Visual density, in most of these films, is used sparingly to create a short-term sense of shock and discomfort in the audience. In contrast is Lida Afrelita and David Darmandi's short film Diary of Cattle, which places a distinct focus on the use of visual density. Diary of Cattle provides an observational glimpse at the lives of cows within a man-made landfill in West Sumatra, Indonesia. Through 18, at times, painful minutes, the viewer is constantly exposed to dense, mostly static images of cows. Through these shots, the cinematic conventions and implications of visual density are fully explored and pushed to their limits. Visual density in Diary of Cattle is firstly used to establish a mass sense of scale, to disorientate and destabilize the viewer, and forcing us, from the opening shot, to confront the gigantic tons of waste that we produce. In effect, the pervasive density of the environment serves to create a heightened sense of immersion as the camera dives into the details of the trash heap from a macro to a micro level. But on a more sobering note, through our continued exposure to the visual density, the audience is forced to realize that the density initially used to establish a sense of discomfort in them is the norm for the cows. And in the landfill, they're living their own natural life cycle from birth to death, with the insurmountable man-made heaps of dense trash constantly juxtaposed with the desperation and natural vitality of the cows. From this juxtaposition, another use of visual density is seen, as a palpable sense of futility is created that goes both ways for the audience and the subjects. In the cows being forced into these conditions, despite the green utopia that is always seemingly framed on the horizon, and for the audience themselves in confronting our own guilt and the futility of our actions in contributing to this ecological man-made degradation. It is telling that the only times the dense spell of images is broken is during shots when the camera focuses on the cows, distinctly allowing us to see them as living, breathing creatures, and allowing us to find a sense of empathy. By watching these harsh 18 minutes and being bludgeoned by these uncomfortable, dense images, the viewer is forced to understand the extent of these problems, with the film, perhaps, acting as the reckoning that we as an audience deserve. As such, the images presented in Diary of Cattle fully explore and push forward the ideas behind visual density, creating images that have lingered in my head for weeks, and hopefully caused many of us to understand and reflect on the seemingly insurmountable consequences of the ways we dispose of our own trash.